We are seeing a convergence of three stories: the pandemic, protests, and politics. All of it in Tulsa, Oklahoma. All of it with a side of TikTok trolling. That's right, from Australia to Great Britain, all around the world, headlines about President Trump's rally falling short of expectations. All those empty seats, the crowds did not show up as expected. Why does this matter? Why is it a lead story? Because it matters to him.
And we expect to have, it's like a record-setting crowd. We've never had an empty seat, and we certainly won't in Oklahoma.
That was a lie. There are usually empty seats at his events, and there were lots of them in Tulsa. Trump set out to produce a television show, and he wanted to have a campaign relaunch spectacle there, but he fell short. Partly because folks are rightly concerned to be in a room with thousands of others during the coronavirus pandemic. And it seems that one of the other reasons why there were so many empty seats is a no-show protest. A no-show protest. This all started with a video on TikTok created by Mary Jo Lapp, who's being effectively called a TikTok grandma. She made a video more than a week ago urging viewers to go to Trump's site, sign up to attend the rally, but pointedly not show up at the rally. Her video was viewed tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of times, and then her video led to others. You had younger TikTok users going on posting similar videos. K-pop fans were on there as well, trying to sabotage Trump's rally. And look, it did seem to work to some degree. We don't know exactly how well, but Trump's campaign manager, Brad Parscale, was out there talking about how many people were signing up. You know, Trump was bragging that there were 1 million people RSVPing. They were gathering all this data about people they can use for the campaign. But apparently it was a bunch of kids, a bunch of teenagers signing up as a protest. Clearly, not everybody showed up in Tulsa. Maybe people heard the huge numbers and said they didn't want to go through the hassle of the crowds. It's unclear exactly what happened. There's multiple factors. We're going to go live to Tulsa in a moment. But first, I spoke with Mary Jo Lapp about her role in what's being called a no-show protest. So, Mary Jo, what happened?
I had educated myself on Black Wall Street and understood better why Black content creators on various social platforms were really upset and frustrated with the original plan of Juneteenth for the rally in Tulsa. Yeah. And I posted a video late Thursday night, the 11th, that was just sort of meant to be a frustrated rant. I had 1,000 followers on TikTok at that point. Most of my videos were seen a couple hundred times, maybe.
And then this went viral on multiple platforms.
Yes, by 7 o'clock the next morning, it had been seen hundreds of times and shared hundreds of times. And then the K-pop stands jumped on from Twitter. And when they get involved, you know it's getting serious.
So this idea is everybody's going to sign up for tickets, claim they want to attend the rally, but then, of course, not show up. How much of an impact do you think this online prank actually had in Tulsa yesterday?
I honestly can't tell you because these social media systems are generational. So when I shared a video, let's say my video was shared 700 times, but each of those people would have people sharing their copies of it. So
Right.
That's 700 more people I never saw. So it's impossible to tell for sure just because of this generational impact that both Twitter and TikTok have. All I know is I was at a birthday party for one of my grandkids and my phone started blowing up with friends wanting to make sure I'd seen what was going on, and I hadn't been paying attention.
Do you think this is how it's going to be from now on? Whenever the president holds a rally, there's going to be this attempt to prank him, to troll him, to trick him?
And I don't think it was just an issue of pranking him. I think you've got a lot of kids in the younger generation, 20-year-olds and teens, who are very aware. They're much more aware and much more self-educated when it comes to things like Black culture. So they're treating it now like it was a prank, but a lot of the messages I got from parents and from their kids were, I never knew this much about Black Wall Street. This is so sad. And so they're excited about the impact that they had. But I also think they're becoming much more aware of those marginalized communities, and they're learning to speak out for them.
Right, so really a form of protest. And what we've seen is a protest. And we don't know how much of an impact it had, but it clearly had some impact in Tulsa. Now, going forward, you're the so-called TikTok grandma. How are these platforms changing the way you interact with the world? Like, how has this changed your life?
I have had a lot of teenagers reach out and say that they don't feel supported by their parents because they have different political ideologies than their parents do. And so they've asked me as an adult, how should I talk to my parents to get them to understand where I'm coming from? Which I think that's a powerful question for teenagers to be able to ask someone who's not emotionally invested in their relationship. But I think social media has made it very clear. I posted one video and it got shared way more times than I could have done anything with it. And I think that's a very careful lesson that we all need to be aware of is, number one, I had no intention of going viral. So there's the lesson: be careful what you post, because you never know. But I also think it definitely has created this huge sense of community. There's a lot of posts all over my social media of "we did it," and kids who aren't even old enough to vote in this upcoming election feel that they have had a voice and a chance to say, we don't approve of some of the things that are happening in our country, and this no-show protest was a way of making our voices heard.
And their voices were heard indeed. Let's get the inside view now from Tulsa with a Stelter, national political reporter for the New York Times. And for an outside perspective, how this is viewed everywhere else in the world, we're going to bring in Jasmine El-Gamal in just a moment. But instead, you're in Tulsa. You saw the crowds. You saw the lack of crowds. What to you is the biggest headline from Trump's attempt at a campaign relaunch in Tulsa?
Yeah, I think what the expectations that the campaign had set, which were admittedly sky high, were just simply not met. Not in the enthusiasm, not in the crowd size, and really not in the kind of intimidation that they were trying to give to Joe Biden and to Democrats. I was really struck earlier in the day by how the response from Black Tulsa, from liberal Tulsa, was to just let Trump have his day, not to have the protests, not to start that many clashes, because they didn't want to give him the spectacle he desired. And it turns out, as that day went on, that looked like a fairly smart play. We were not seeing the type of clashes that some conservatives had come to expect, and we also didn't see the crowds that they came to expect. That caused the focus to be intently on what was happening inside the arena, both the lack of enthusiasm that we saw in there and the message.
As you wrote in the New York Times website this morning, he played the hits. He played all those usual, kind of narratives. Did you take precautions, Estelle? Did you wear a mask? Tell me about the precautions in the age of COVID-19.
Yeah, the Times has been really vigilant about us reporters who are out going through training around wearing masks. I had an N95 on. We had training about how to interact with people, and I was trying to keep that distance. But at the same time, some of these precautions are not going to be held up to when the person you're speaking to is not wearing a mask, and they're not doing that also. I mean, I remember looking at some of the surrogates who were shaking hands, kissing babies, taking selfies, and that kind of typical politicking that, frankly, I haven't seen in a long time. Not only has there not been events, but even in the ones I have gone to, I've seen Republicans in Georgia and South Carolina recently. They have taken some precautions. That was not true, because the president has made it such a political act to do things like wearing a mask and social distancing. Some of his supporters were saying when they received the free mask, they just threw it right in the trash when they got in.